Hi everyone, let's talk for a couple minutes about inclusive language. So you earlier in the semester learned some things about how to talk about people with disabilities, how to write about them, how to talk to them, how to talk about them. So the same holds true for occupational therapy assistants. So when we are talking about occupational therapy assistants, oftentimes you will hear people say COTAs, and that is really not appropriate or preferred language. So the reason being, a COTA/L, which is what I am, that C comes from the NBCOT exam. And to be a practitioner, you actually don't have to have your C. It's very much encouraged that you maintain your C because you're working really hard to get it. It shows that you are committed to some continuing education. Some jobs require the C, so you're very much encouraged to keep your C. But the reality is not all OTAs maintain their C. So to refer to OTAs as COTAs, is not accurate. In fact, in the state of Ohio, it would be more appropriate to call us like OTLs, OTA/Ls, because we have to have our license from the state to practice. Also, we don't call occupational therapists otters, OTRs. We don't call physical therapists like PITs or physical therapy assistants, PITAs, or speech language pathologist SLPs. Like, we don't make up these words for anyone else. So we say that they're a PTA or a physical therapist assistant. We say that they're an OT or occupational therapist. So to call OTAs to call OTAs COTAs, you see how that congruent? So it's not the same as how we treat others. So really advocate that you're an occupational therapy assistant, or that you're an occupational therapy practitioner. So the other thing, COTA just really gets under my skin. So don't say it. It's annoying. It's not appropriate. Hopefully you understand why now. If not, make sure you're asking questions. And then the other thing that you'll often hear is occupational therapists do blah, 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 and OTs do blah, 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 and OT, blah, OT. And when you look at the standards of practice, it may be more appropriate to say OTP, occupational therapy practitioners, do blah, 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 blah. Now, there are certainly things that occupational therapists do that we do not do as occupational therapy assistants. But just make sure that occupational therapy assistants are not being eliminated from the table and from the things that we can do. So make sure that when appropriate, you're using the language occupational therapy practitioners. And then make sure when you're talking specifically about occupational therapy assistants that you say OTAs and not COTAs. Remember that not all OTAs are COTAs. Not everyone maintains their C. So that's kind of my soapbox about language and inclusive language about OT practitioners. And then what I want to have you do, I don't normally do this because I just don't like being self-promoting like this, but I had an opportunity, some of you may remember from our intro, to write a chapter for this occupational therapy in early childhood chapter. And the chapter that I wrote is about occupational therapy assistants and the role of occupational therapy assistants. Sorry, someone was turning around in my driveway. I didn't know who it was. And this chapter, while it is geared toward early childhood education, really highlights the importance of occupational therapy assistants and best practices for occupational therapy assistants that can be applied to a variety of practice settings. So I'm going to have you read that chapter in lieu of kind of what you would have been discussing in lab today. So you've listened to my rant about calling us occupational therapy assistants or OTAs. You've listened to my rant about using occupational therapy practitioners rather than occupational therapists when appropriate. And then I'm going to have you read this chapter. It's pretty brief. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's only 6 pages long. So when I say I wrote a chapter, I wrote a short, concise chapter. So it's scanned and available for you to read. If you have any questions on this content, make sure that you're reaching out.